hand, and his processing takes quite a while. So it's going to be a while before the general public gets to see or hear the big picture. But there is also a Namibian connection here, and one also needs to question the motive of Arthur Fraser. Why has he decided to break the story or expose this matter at this point in time?
You see, so obviously, um, we can't take away that there was some form of political motivation, and it was carefully crafted in such a way that if you see, Arthur Fraser is a man who bears a lot of secrets and a lot of state secrets,
Mm,
but you
mm,
can see that he carefully chose a scandal in which where he is not bound to any secrecy when it comes to the state security agency which he ran, because events that around President Ramaphosa's farm burglary happened when he left and he was already in charge of prison. So you can see that there is a careful, orchestrated and planned approach to saying, well, I'm going to blow the whistle on this in a way that it won't come back to haunt him, because I mean, he's no longer part of he's no longer bound by any sort of state security agency uh, rules or secrecies. But the issue comes here that um, a lot of things happen where, I mean, for example, the Namibian authorities picked up this thing, and as far as we understood from low level officials, they started first trying to contact the South African embassy to say, we understand this is happening and money is being channeled into Namibia, and we understood this. And the South African authorities sort of, I don't know whether they were pretending or whether they didn't at the time, but they sort of said, no, this is not going to happen. And at the time we heard, well, then we heard that there was this high level conversations happening behind the scenes, and the South African government doesn't want things to happen. But at the time we heard the prosecutor general in Namibia and the police were forced to drop any sort of charge or any investigation into this issue, because they were told that, as we understand, the South African government said no, this will be embarrassing to the president, because he would not be able to explain how he had so much large sums of cash at home. So the Namibians then made a decision that because there's no sort of statement of a crime having been committed, and no one as a complainant is coming forward, so they had to leave these people who were suspected of having committed a crime. And because they brought some of their money into Namibia and they were flaunting it, and so the Namibian authorities decided, no, okay, it's fine, because by trying to go after these assets and freezing them and forfeiting them, we will be seen to be um, victimizing and witch hunting people who did nothing. So they left it and it died. And we understood they left it because there were um, meetings with top people in the President Ramaphosa administration. And only now, like last week, we saw that Arthur Fraser's affidavit speaks of how General Ude came to Namibia without having been processed at the borders. So that just shows that there was a high level cover up, and it shows that the two administrations sort of colluded to cover to make this thing look like it never happened. And then, well, obviously, for political reasons, whether we call it for political reasons or not, it backfired on them. And Arthur Fraser sort of stopped the bombshell. And, well, we'll have to wait and see how they go about it. The Namibian president has answered any questions so far. At least President Ramaphosa answered, and he's trying to deflect and change the conversation. But there are serious questions that he needs to answer to. And then we also need to come back to the Namibian government and ask, well, does it mean that Namibian government was complicit, and did they really know what exactly was going on, and how did they then agree to cover up the crime? Or is it an issue of because it happened in the South African jurisdiction and not in Namibia, they took an approach of see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil.
Mm,
Those are
mm.
really the questions that the Namibian authorities also need to explain to the Namibian public. Why is our government being involved in a criminal cover-up?
Okay, but obviously the South African public needs a detailed explanation from Cyril Ramaphosa. I don't buy the fact that you have 4 million US dollars on your farm, and I can't accept that that has been from the sale of livestock. If it was, and if it was legitimate above board sales, then that money should have been sitting in a bank account somewhere. That's the one issue. We also have, again, we need to put the spotlight on Arthur Fraser. Was this timing absolutely deliberate? Is it, how is this going to hurt Ramaphosa in the upcoming elective conference? We know that he's outright a Zuma man. So, who is coming forth with all of the information? What do they hope to achieve at the end of the day? And then taxpayers are carrying a very, very heavy burden here in South Africa. How is it that the president has that amount of money that hasn't been declared to SARS?
Well, that's those are pertinent questions. I mean, especially um, looking at why has President Ramaphosa not laid a criminal complaint? I mean, if the reason why the story came out is because at the time when we were looking into it back in 2020, there was no trace of a criminal complaint having been made or an incident report whatsoever with the South African police. We checked whether something happened in Pretoria or in Limpopo, near where the farm is. We tried to check that and we could not get any any information or any confirmation that there was an incident like that. Now, um, whether the president was complicit or whether it's those around him doing it in the name of protecting him, that now still falls on him. He now has to explain why he never laid a criminal complaint. And I mean, if it's clean money, why hide it? Why hide the fact that okay, we had clean money? And the other element is have you covered um, crime for a while and understanding this thing is that there's no there's no criminal who will pounce on you if you had money deposited or if the money was collected that day or that weekend and that's it. Criminals normally study people and profile people. So what that tells you is that this amount of money must have been on the farm for a very long time. And that's why and the timing obviously happened apparently when the president was out of the country and so on. So it must have taken careful and meticulous planning. So even if it was proceeds of game, I mean, how long do you keep the money? Why is it not in a bank somewhere? So that those are the questions that the president needs to answer. Um, South African political recent political history tells us that Arthur Fraser has been um, accused or is alleged to have been the one who 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 brought about the spy tapes, which saved former President Zuma from prosecution already back in 2008. Um, he then again obviously served as the head of the SSA under President Zuma, and then again recently he was implicated in having overruled the medical parole board to sign off that President Zuma gets medical parole. So the
Right.
question is is he acting now trying to save his skin because the knives are out for him for releasing President Zuma, or is he acting? And is it limited to that, or is he trying to kill two birds with one stone, trying to save himself, humiliate President Ramaphosa, and prevent President Ramaphosa from getting a second term as party president at this year's
Mm.
elective conference? And the other question is obviously, was he acting alone or was he acting in cahoots with the section that is known as the Radical Economic Transformation section in the ANC, which obviously
Tileni,
opposed.
Tileni, let's not kid ourselves. He can't be working in isolation. Never. It's unimaginable that Arthur Fraser would be working in isolation. But having said that, we are talking about two distinctly, even though they intertwined, two totally. We're talking about two distinct issues here, which needs to be assessed and investigated separately. Arthur Fraser's motives and whom is he serving, and Cyril Ramaphosa is answerable to the people. Where does that money come from? Is it clean money? If it's clean money, how come it's not sitting in a bank? And if it is dirty money, is it part of some sort of a state capture loot? So there are two very distinct cases to be answered here. How closely are you following the stories, the two stories, and when can we get an update on this?
Well, a lot has been happening, and obviously the President Ramaphosa has now he has to answer on two fronts. Outside of the state authorities, the state machinery, which I doubt would whether the prosecution authority and SAPS or would go after him right now. The public protector is obviously also fighting her own battles, so I doubt that she right now has the capacity and the energy to go after the president. Maybe the next public protector, but also we have Parliament. Parliament should be able to call the president to account for this, and I think that's the best bet. And the next one is obviously the ANC National Executive Committee. I mean, the president has always fought battles within the National Executive Committee. He's sort of trying to win the support now, but he's faced resistance before, and especially um, people or leaders in the National Executive Committee are unhappy with the way they felt he treated the so-called Zuma camp and players in the Zuma camp like Malusi Kigaba and all of these guys who were sort of forced to step aside. Um, Ace, Ace Magashule was also forced to step aside. So there will be some form of fight within the ANC National Executive Committee, and there will be calls for him to step aside as well. And I suspect this is part of the reason why Asa Fraser chose now to drop this bombshell is because there will be a call for him to step aside. But then with
Mm.
Parliament, there will probably be the best bet in terms of holding the president to account because I feel that will probably be a more objective platform to ask the right question and get the president to account for what happened.
Okay.
Those are the two sort of yeah. As for Asa Fraser, I think he's retired now. I feel he's just being a political player in the bigger scheme of things.
Okay, Tileni Mongudhi, undoubtedly we will be talking with you again. This is indeed a developing story, and we will obviously cover it sometime soon, maybe over the next week or two. Thank you indeed for your insights. Thank you for your time. Till the next
Thank
time,
you
as
very much.
always, go well and God bless.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Next, we'll be listening to Juice 6 by Sheikh Tawfiq Ibn As Saih. It is exactly 1 after 10. Thank you indeed for being with me on the show this morning. And till tomorrow morning at the same time, as always, take care on the roads. And it is Assalamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz from me, Julie Ali.
Rejuvenating